Hi everyone, I hope you guys are doing good. Today I want to share with you some experiences I've had. Wondering if any of you have gone through this or can relate to this. Um, I just ask that you would be able to comment and just if I could have any sort of clarity. So I'm kind of going to be talking about a similar dynamic that I've gone through in my life, but different relationships, everything from work to friendships, etc. So I'm probably going to delete this later, but when you're going through this, it can just make you feel crazy and confused. And there was this time I was working on a job and I had this boss that was making jokes about me, and I was really the only person they were making jokes about. And I mean, granted, like multiple coworkers were doing this, but not all at the same time. But at this job, I was like the joke of the job, essentially. I don't work there anymore, but when I had finally had enough of her laughing and making jokes, I had sent her a text, wondering, wanting her to stop, laughing and making jokes. I don't remember how I worded it, but I remember she denied laughing, and I remember, I think I said something back like, okay, either you generally don't remember or you're trying to gaslight me. And yet, you're in this predicament where you're the one on the receiving end of things, you're the one being laughed at or joked about, whatever the case may be, but yet this person is the one denying your perception or your reality. And I remember just having a conversation with her, and you're the one that, not that I got in trouble, but you're the one that's like looked at a certain way for bringing that up, and yet they're the ones denying laughing at you. This is not like the first time I've experienced something similar like that, but when I was going through it, I just felt, you just feel crazy, you feel confused, and it's like you're made to feel like the bad person because you're tired of the jokes, or, when they deny doing something, I mean, what is that when you deny doing something, though? What is that, the gaslighting, unless you don't remember, right? I realize, maybe it's not the best way to go about things, and maybe that can seem like making assumptions, but like when you're being treated like that, you just don't know how to respond or how to feel. Or there was another job where I was the only one that stopped being put on the schedule. So everyone else had hours and my name had none. And I remember, I didn't want to confront it by any means because I don't like confrontation. but I like to try to practice, especially if it's like, okay, like I'm not just gonna up and leave, but I definitely wish that's what I would have done. In a similar manner, I remember reaching out to my boss, and because I would struggle to do it verbally, and I even said, um, can you please just like tell me if you're trying to let me go, or I don't know what you're supposed to think if you're the only one not being given hours and it's like you're experiencing this sense of exclusion. And I've experienced it at different environments like churches and stuff before, so like it was painful, and this person like gets mad at me, makes me feel like I'm being rude, yet I was just baffled because I said, can you please just let me know, like, they're trying to get rid of me if you're trying to let me go. Got mad at me, made me feel like I was assuming things, even called me rude for saying, can you please, let me know. Or can you just please let me know? I maybe added the word just in there, but I don't know what you're supposed to do in situations like that. When like you're on the receiving end of things and people getting mad at you because you're just trying to understand what's going on, or you know, not necessarily being treated right in some way. And then more recently, I had experienced a friendship where it was kind of almost in a sense a similar dynamic playing out, but in a different way. And if you guys like don't agree with this, like how I responded in these scenarios, that's fine. You know, these things were triggering for me. So to have someone deny laughing, like I've been gaslit in my life since I was a little girl, like even from like I had a peer that did that, and then other dynamics. So like it is a triggering thing for me, and in a similar manner, because I have experienced exclusion, I have experienced rejection, not being put on the schedule and being the only person, that also was triggering and hurtful. And I realized maybe I didn't go about it the best way. You don't have to agree with that by any means, but it doesn't feel good when you're the one on the receiving end of things and you're made to feel guilty, you're made to feel bad, you're made to feel wrong for trying to speak up because someone isn't treating you right or something is hurting you, or you notice you're the one being treated differently than everyone else. But anyways, I had this friendship. I recently let go of this friendship, and I've been trying to move forward from it, but I've also been trying to understand like what happened, and I think there's part of me that like has felt like a bad person for letting go of this friendship. Excuse me. And so I had this person in my life that just seemed like a really empathetic person. They were always trying to be there for other people, and they were even, trying to be there for me in my life, when I needed someone. just a tidbit, they weren't there for me when I was going through a lot and I needed someone. But after that, like when I would need someone, they would be there for me. And almost in a sense, like no matter what. And that was really huge, you know. I really appreciated it, you know, it meant a lot to me. Um, and this person had been through a lot of pain in their life, and I would try to be there for them, and I just would try to be there for emotional support any way I could help them, to pray with them, to minister, just anything I could do. Um, Granted, like I was working 3 jobs at the time, and um, you know, I didn't have a lot of energy, and you kind of have limited time, you know, you need your time to wind down after, you know, working all these jobs, and um, but I would still try to, you know, be there for them, and spend a lot of time just, you know, pouring into them. And I'm really struggling because this person had been through a lot, had been through a lot of pain in their life. And when because we hadn't known each other for a while, but we had started talking at work because we had worked the same job at one point, and this was before I was working the multiple jobs. But basically, basically, we had started talking at work, and you know, I thought this person was, you know, really empathetic, and um, it was just so confusing to me because I felt like as I would open up about my pain to this person, it would just be invalidated and in a sense dismissed. And this was something that was essentially happening repeatedly. I had tried bringing it up with them, and I would find that they would kind of have insensitive comments, but that they would kind of just get quieter, which was not what I wanted. I just wanted to be treated a certain way, you know. Um, I'm gonna give an example. It's kind of dark. I'm just gonna warn you. But I remember him mentioning one time that he felt alone. He wished, you know, he could have a hug or something. And so um, I remember one night I opened up to him about this suicide attempt I basically um, had when I was 14. And I just was talking about how I had certain family members find me with a cord wrapped around my neck, and I was hearing these voices at the time telling me to kill myself and to wrap the cord around my neck. And I remember I just wanted a hug, or I just wanted someone to tell me they loved me, or that, we'll get through this together, or because, I was scared. I'd never experienced anything like that. And, I didn't even have any desires to end my life. Like that night, it's like the voices were just so strong. But I was telling him, that, I didn't have a hug. There was no I love you. There was, none of that, when that was happening. And I say that because, things have been really lonely in my life. When you not just like deal with like people acting a certain way towards you, like friendships, or they turn against you, or work environments, like it's very lonely. And I'd experienced things, since I was young, and you think it's just a moment of time, and that like it's gonna go away, or it's just those people. And then, you grow up and realize that, it's been a lot of jealousy or envy, or, rejection, or just being treated differently, like pretty much her whole life. And I'd opened up to him about going through a lot of rejection, going through betrayal, and things like that. But when I opened up to him about, this suicide attempt, this darkest time in my life, his response was something along the lines, well, it's challenging to know how any parent would respond, like seeing their child in that position. And I just couldn't believe like that's how this person was like responding as I, was opening up about that. And I mean, this person knew like I had been really alone a lot of my life, and I dealt with a lot of rejection. This person knew that previously. And yeah, but I couldn't believe that. I will say mental health can be kind of taboo in my family. I did have a grandpa that struggled with mental health stuff, so I think sometimes it is challenging for people to know how to respond that are close to you. But it's not been easy, having to go through everything that you have, and like not really feel like anyone has understood, or like really feel like you've had support in your life. Like friends, or I have one friend, but she doesn't live near me. But in like I think it was 26 at the time, 26 years of life, like it's the only person I found that has cared or wanted to stay in my life, or like not turned against me in any way, or had hidden jealousy or anything. And so, sorry, we're kind of opening up about a lot of stuff, but it was very confusing for me, this friend responding in this way as I was, talking about this suicide attempt, and especially not understanding how he didn't empathize in what I had said when, he mentioned he feels alone sometimes and wishes he could have a hug. Like, I didn't understand that. And I would find myself being invalidated kind of repeatedly when I was working at the job where I had a boss making jokes. I had another coworker that I remember one day I heard her making fun of like my voice and the way I speak, and because I had dealt with some voice struggles, and if you don't speak loudly, it can be like the running joke with people. Like, it's just so funny to people. But I remember one time, I was telling this friend over text, like, am I being too sensitive? Like, I heard this coworker like making fun of like my voice, and I remember, instead of like reminding me the truth or, anything like that, like, there's nothing wrong with your voice, like, they were just making me feel like I didn't have thick enough skin. And now I realize, God was trying to show me, like, this person, like, is not you, for you. But I remember, like, just a bunch of other coworkers laughing at the time at what she was saying. Even ones that had, like, previously left. So, like, multiple, like, different coworkers that had come in, like, different years, like, I was experiencing, like, just having jokes made about me. So, like, this person, when I would try to open up about things, it's like they would be invalidating, like, repeatedly. When I had gone through narcissistic abuse from people close to me, and I was struggling with health stuff at the time, I was struggling with, heart stuff that I'd never struggled with, they would side with the people that abuse me and basically say in the sense of like, oh, well, they've probably been through a lot of trauma too. I understand where they're coming from, but it just was this sense of like repeated invalidation, and I would try to explain like, this is hurtful. Like, I was just made to kind of feel like my pain didn't really matter. But simultaneously, like, this person would open up about like what they were going through in their life, and like if they wanted to hang out or they wanted to keep talking on the phone or talking, like, I had to be there for them in that way. What do I mean by that? I remember that there was a time where, like, I was on the phone with them and I said, okay, like, I have to go, I have to get up at, 5 a.m. tomorrow. And they were laughing at something previously, but they just kept laughing. They didn't hang up. They didn't say, okay, I have to go. Like, there was no respect for my need for sleep and time and boundaries. And it's like I would spend hours trying to be there for them, trying to minister to them. And, it's like it wouldn't be enough. They wanted to hang out, another time that week. And you're just like made to feel like, and not necessarily them making you feel like that for the most part, but like that you're disappointing them. Like, if you don't be there for them, like multiple times, or when they want you to be, or even if you just spend hours, being there for them, pouring into them. The reason that this was like so confusing for me is because like this person had been through a lot of pain. I mean, for example, their dad had passed away, and I really felt for them, and it just got very tricky because like I did not like the way I was being treated, but yet like I felt for them so much, and just it got to a point where um sorry, I kind of trying to figure out what I was gonna say. It got to a point where, I would try to communicate like different behaviors that were hurt, and um I would maybe occasionally get an apology or like a long apology, crying emoji, and um the behavior would really change. Um or most of the time I would get as I, would try to express my feelings, I would be told, what they were going through with other people. I remember even one time, like, I had this message from this person that, like, they just feel like they hurt everyone and they wish they weren't here sometimes. And I just didn't even know how to navigate things with this person because, um, like maybe they did legitimately feel like that, and obviously, I really felt for them as someone that has felt like I shouldn't be here, or that things would be better off. But it was so challenging to navigate things because, like, it's like the attention would be taken off, like, what behaviors they were engaging in that were hurting me, and like onto themselves, and like what they were going through with people, or like what they were feeling. And when I would be told these things, I would like put aside the hurt I was feeling, and I would like try to help them. And it just was so confusing because they would talk about how much they cared about me sometimes. But then, like, I was being invalidated repeatedly, and my boundaries and my need for sleep and my time was like being disrespected and pushed back against in some way. So then it started getting to a point where um, I, I was constantly trying to help this person, like, and constantly trying to like alleviate their pain. I got to a point where I felt like all their pain and what they were dealing with was being dumped onto me. And when I use that word dumped, like when someone doesn't take responsibility of the things that are bothering them in their life, and it's like they just dump it onto you to like fix or resolve, but it's like they don't really want that at the same time. Like they want the empathy, but it's like you're trying to alleviate their pain repeatedly or be there to support them, but it's like you just keep being dumped on like all these things in their life, and you don't want to see your friend hurting, so you're trying to help them, you're trying to alleviate their pain. And it got to a point where this was happening, but also like this person was like starting to like judge me and like look down on me because like I mentioned one time where I had someone that had been um, verbally and emotionally abusive, and I was triggered one day and I had gotten upset and there was a little bit of cussing, and I remember I told him about this because I felt bad, but also like I just wanted to get it out. And I remember he just was like looking down on me, saying, you know, I would never do that. And then, like, on top of this, like, they were starting to undermine me and try to make me doubt myself. And I remember someone had said something to me to try to, yeah, basically make me doubt myself. And I brought it up to them and, you know, waiting for them to combat it, you know, and they did not. They did something to undermine me, like I said, try to make me doubt myself. And it got to a point where I remember still trying to hold on to this friendship, still trying to be there for this person. And I remember I was in a lot of stress, and I remember I had like gotten in a fight with another family member because they like weren't being very nice, and um I remember just being very flooded with emotion, and I hadn't eaten for a while. And you know how you sometimes feel like nauseous? I remember being on the phone with this friend, and they were just dumping everything emotionally um, onto me, and someone had hurt them recently, and I had tried to tell them, like, this person doesn't treat you right. Like, I saw something that, like, I don't know, it's like I just saw the motives of the person. I saw, like, what was going to happen. But I remember just telling this person, like, this person does not treat you right. And I felt like they didn't really want to hear it. And I get that sometimes, like, we don't necessarily see those things sometimes, until you, like, go through things. But they were, like, talking about how this person had hurt them, and I remember I had been feeling nauseous, but I had been feeling okay, and I remember I just, like, I have to go. And I just remember getting really sick. I was throwing up. And I just remember right before that, I just remember this thought just coming to mind, like, um, it's too much. Everything's too much. And I was trying to eat something and like I wasn't able to keep it down. And so I finally was able to fall asleep. Then the next day, I had had this health scare in this episode where I woke up, my eyes were drooping, you know, when like your eyes aren't like fully open and like awake and they're like drooping. I felt weak, I felt dizzy, I felt like I was gonna pass out. Um that day, I don't know if I felt dizzy, but I felt weak and like I was gonna pass out. The dizziness came later. And I don't feel like that anymore, thank goodness, which um, I'm gonna share a video on that later because there was like a huge revelation God had revealed to me that led to the dizziness going away because it was really bad. But I felt weak and like I was gonna pass out like all day that day. And I remember in the middle of the day, excuse me, at one point I was feeling weaker and even more like, excuse me, I was gonna pass out. At one point, I stopped being able to form words, and all I could get out were groans. And it was very scary. I didn't know what was happening. I didn't know if, I was having a stroke or what was happening. But I remember my parents encouraging me to fall asleep. I was terrified, thinking, I would just pass out in my sleep. And like, I really felt like that day was like going to be my last day on earth. I'd never felt that sick, that weak, or had any kind of experience like that, where I wasn't even able to form words. And I just want to clarify this, like I had been eating like all throughout the day, as much as I could after having been nauseous the night before and like throwing up. But right before I fell asleep, I found myself mustering these syllables that I was able to barely get out. And I couldn't form words, but I could get these syllables out. I don't think I realized at the time, but I was like praying in the spirit. And so whenever I fell asleep, I woke up and everything was gone. Everything was back to normal. I was talking normally. My eyes weren't drooping anymore. I didn't feel weak like I was going to pass out. Everything was back to normal. That being said, for a long time after that, I was dealing with these really intense dizzy spells, which I'm going to bring this story up in another video. But basically, during this time, I was going through the health stuff. I really felt like it wasn't a coincidence that I was like talking on the phone to this friend and like I was starting to have these episodes, like, but I remember I was still trying to hold on to the friendship, even though I felt like this is not good for me. I got to a point, one night where, I was trying to figure out what's going on. Like, I had no clarity over everything. Like, on top of how this person was like starting to undermine me and try to make me like doubt myself, whether intentionally or unintentionally. But there was no clarity, how this person really felt about me. And I would bring these things up, and it's like, it frustrates you because you feel like you're the one that's put the piece together because there is no clarity, there is no like talking about like what's going on, like, or what you were experiencing or sensing, but I got to a point where like I had brought this up and it was like, I don't know if I can trust you, like you said something to try to make me doubt myself. And on top of like the judgment toward me with like what I was struggling with at the time. And like I just got to a point where you're trying to communicate things and like I was not receiving any response back. And I got to a point where I was still trying to hold on to the friendship because this person had been through a lot. They had been through a lot of pain, and that's what's been the most confusing thing for me is like they just seem like a kind person, and yet it's so confusing when you're being treated like this. And I remember I was like waiting for any response, and you know, there was no response back. This person go, you know, through like texting pretty frequently, especially when they were going through something. But like whenever like I was trying to put all these pieces together, and like there's all this stuff that had like accumulated that I tried talking about, but then it's like now this other stuff is coming up, like being undermined. There was like no response. And I remember one night I got to the point where like God was just like showing me like certain things, because I had like a huge flare up where I was feeling very sick. My heart was pounding and racing. I felt weak, like I was gonna pass out, and I just remember crying and just asking God, like, please help me, because it was not good. And I remember just like I was so anxious, like because I had just sent a text to this person. I was like trying to hold on this friendship, and it's like I wanted things to just go to like a normal place, or like where we could just like have a normal like friendship, and where like there wasn't this tension happening. And um I remember God just showing me like the friendship was not good for me, and I remember just like deleting their number off my phone at the time. I have struggled some days not ruminating on everything. Like I don't know what happened. I don't want to believe this person was being purposefully like manipulative, and it's so tricky and it's so challenging to like understand. Um but and I even wonder like, okay, like is this person a narcissist, or are they somewhere on the spectrum, or um I don't understand what happened. I want to understand, because um when I've seen this person in person, it's like they act normal. I remember them telling me like they were going to like respond to me, because I tried doing a brief explanation of like everything. Um and it's like they haven't responded back still, and I don't understand. I want to, because I want to be able to move forward. I want to see things clearly for what they are. And like I said, I don't want to believe someone was being purposely manipulative, but it's like it's confusing. When I was on the phone, I said I had to go, and like this person just like kept laughing and like was pushing back against my need for sleep and like boundaries. And I felt bad because I could not take that feeling of being emotionally dumped on anymore. And I did not know how to just be there for that person, be support and listen without trying to help them. Like, if I felt like I just was constantly being told about their pain or their dynamic with someone in their life, and like they don't want to do anything to like better that. dynamic with that person. I have felt bad, like just feeling like, I don't know, just like a bad person because like I wasn't able to like be that for them, and I just felt like I was being dumped on it. I felt like I couldn't take anymore. But it is different when like you try to open up about your pain and like you're being invalidated. But I just, I'm confused after what happened. I'm confused as to what happened. That was my only friend that I had in my life that I felt like I could trust. I felt like was for me, and um, I'm just wondering if I made the right decision, like health wise, obviously. Because I just remember on top of the health stuff, I was absolutely exhausted. But it's just so confusing. This person was Christian, and I just, I don't know. Has anyone else experienced this? I've felt like a bad person for like trying to bring up what was hurting me repeatedly and ending the friendship. And especially like after they said that like they wish they weren't here sometimes. Like I tried to be there for them. I tried to help them. And it's like, when you're like struggling with your health and like it's like, your body just forces you to like let go of certain dynamics, or but to me it's just, I want to understand, was this person doing this on purpose? Like, were they intentionally being manipulative? Is a combination of things. Like, I just, I, like I said, I don't understand what I went through. And I think the thing I've wrestled with is like I've felt like God wanted me to be there for this person, like um in the ways that I was trying to be till, you feel like you ran your health to the ground. Like I felt like God wanted me to help this person and be there for this person, and that like I've been wrong for bringing up like how their actions were hurting me repeatedly, um or how I've been struggling to just like let go of like what happened, or I've been struggling with rumination, or um, I don't know, or that I shouldn't feel this upset, like how I was treated. But it just feels like I was like deceived. It doesn't feel very good. And that was like the last friend I had in my life, so I don't have anyone in my life anymore. Like friend wise. Um, and support in that way. I just, I don't know if anyone has any thoughts or clarification, or you have been through this, or you can answer kind of any of the questions that I mentioned or wondered about. I would really appreciate hearing from you, because I've been struggling like after all of that. And yeah, I love you. Thanks for listening. God bless you.